Hey there, everybody. This is Kristin from Teaching Balance, and I am here with you at this week's mindfulness meditation practice. And as you know, we are in the month of self-compassion, and we've been looking at it from a variety of different angles. We can review that, but honestly, what I'm thinking of is I want to just circle back to why this is so helpful. When you make the choice to cultivate and to really just invite in self-compassion, it is much more supportive and productive. And there's this quality of ease to it. And by ease, I don't mean like it's easy for people all the time, naturally, because sometimes it really does require an effort to practice. But it's not like it takes any time. The practices that we're doing to help support that, of course, take some time, but in any given moment when you're struggling and when things are difficult, you can offer yourself self-compassion. And it doesn't really require you to stop and sit down and close your eyes. Like it is truly, I think, very spontaneous. And so we do all of these things and we explore these ideas as a way to support that and help familiarize you with all the various flavors of it. And so for this week, what I wanted to do was share with you a practice that I first learned about from Dr. Kristin Neff, who is very prominent in the research and all of the sharing of the value around self-compassion. And she works with educators, she just works with everybody. So she has a new book coming out, and her first book is basically just self-compassion and explaining the value of it. She also has a TED Talk that I highly recommend you check out. So it's Kristin, spelled the same way as me, Kristin. The last name is Neff. And she calls this the self-compassion break. Now, what we're going to do is a longer, sort of more spacious version of it. But what we're going to do can absolutely be condensed down into a very short, momentary experience. And so, just to give you the highlights of it now, normally I try not to tell you too much until we get into it, but just so that you're aware of it and you can kind of see how it's applicable in a short moment. One of the first pieces to it is just to acknowledge whatever it is that is the challenge that you're dealing with. It could be feeling disappointed about something, being disappointed in yourself, struggling with something in your personal life, at work, whatever it might be. And that very first step is just to acknowledge it and allow yourself to be present to it without any self-judgment. So that she would describe as being like, that's the mindfulness, that's the mindful awareness of how things are. Then the second piece is to get into this idea of the fact that it's most likely a somewhat universal experience. So no matter how personal it might feel, odds are you're not the only person who is currently experiencing that or has ever experienced in it. And so there's this quality of allowing yourself to be supported by the common humanity of that circumstance and of the human condition. And then lastly is the piece where you really just offer yourself kindness. And we've been doing a lot of that all month long, whether we're flipping the script on our inner critic or whether we are allowing ourselves to receive kindness from a loved one or this kind of generalized compassionate friend who we visualize. Either way, we're allowing ourselves to bring to mind words of support and kindness and encouragement as opposed to words of criticism or judgment. And so those are the three pieces. Like I said, we'll do a longer version since our meditation is going to be 10 minutes, but you can do that very quickly. And I think once we go through it, you'll probably be able to see how easy it is to do that on a much smaller scale. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to hit my timer for 10 minutes. And I know we've been touching on posture and all of that, so just allowing yourself to feel that you are in a posture that is supported. It's often called relaxed alertness. And another phrasing that I think is really interesting that I'd like to offer is the concept of strong back, soft front. So you're allowing the the support of your spine and your back to hold you up or hold you in this attentive position, even if you are lying down. But we really are allowing the chest and the abdomen to be soft so as to invite in the relaxed quality of this deep breathing. We don't want to be tight and constricted in the chest and in the abdomen. We really want to just let that air in. A lot of times people often reference watching a baby breathing. Big inhale with the belly expanding. And then on the exhale, it goes down. So just allowing yourself, even if it's just slightly, to soften some of the front of the body. And as you take those deep breaths, letting the abdomen expand. And then descend. And if you're lying down, it can also be really interesting to place one hand on the abdomen and just feel it rising and falling. And allowing those deep breaths to comfort, to ground, and to relax. And if you're not feeling very relaxed right now in this moment, that's fine too. But it's just about setting the tone for this practice together. And if you haven't already, allowing your breathing to resume its natural rhythm. And remembering that if you care to, you can always go back to that deeper breathing at any time. So when you're ready, let's allow ourselves to transition into this self-compassion break. Whether you do it for this longer duration, you can even do it for even longer than this or much shorter. I'm going to invite you to begin just by allowing yourself to bring to mind some small challenge or struggle that you've been dealing with. As we've explored in other practices, you don't want to pick up the 50-pound weight, more like the 5-pound weight. And as you get more and more comfortable with this, of course, you can explore some of the deeper, heavier challenges. But for right now, just bring to mind something that's been tricky, challenging, perplexing. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to bring mindful awareness to this circumstance. A big part of all mindfulness practices is about mindful presence. And that mindful presence is about having clarity about how things are without trying to sugarcoat it or pretend it's not there or live in denial. Instead, we allow ourselves just to hold it in our awareness in this supported way where you can have a quality of acceptance, but not acceptance in the sense that you're saying it's okay and not a problem, but you can accept seeing it for how it is in this moment. And as you bring this challenge to mind, the first thing I'd like for you to do is just acknowledge the fact that it is a challenge. And if you care to, you can even say to yourself in your mind, this is hard. This is a tricky one. I'm really struggling with this situation. Let yourself feel what that feels like. Perhaps a little frustration, exasperation, maybe even some anger. And we're not telling ourselves the story about it, you're just allowing yourself to acknowledge the truth of the circumstances. And next, when you're ready, I'd like to invite you to acknowledge the fact that whatever you're struggling with right now, you're not the only one. Some variation has been experienced by others in the past, is being experienced right now somewhere else and by someone else, and is an experience that someone in the future will be dealing with a variation of as well. So what I'd like for you to do is just allow yourself to feel the support of that common humanity, that you're not the only one, and that other people have gotten through it, will get through it, and you will get through it. And then lastly, when you're ready, now that you have allowed yourself to be mindfully aware of the challenge, you've reminded yourself of the fact that this is part of the human condition. This last part, I'd like for you to offer some kindness to yourself, letting go of any judgment regarding to what degree of success you're dealing with it, and instead absolutely offering yourself unconditional support, warmth, and kindness, no matter what the outcome, and no matter how it goes. And if it's helpful, you can even allow yourself to offer this kindness and this compassion in the same way that you would offer it to someone else and to a friend who is dealing with something similar. If that makes it easier, think of it that way, and then offer it to yourself. And allowing yourself just to take a moment to cultivate those feelings of support, warmth, kindness, and compassion toward yourself, to allow yourself to receive them, to be nourished and supported and comforted by them, and to hold that in your awareness until you hear the final bell. So just as a recap, you're acknowledging what the challenge is, and you're acknowledging that it's hard, difficult, tricky, whatever it might be. You remind yourself that you're not the only human who has experienced something similar, allowing yourself to take comfort from that common humanity. And then lastly, offering yourself the words of kindness and compassion and support, similar to what a friend would offer to you or that you would offer to another. So as always, thank you so much for taking this time for yourself, and thank you for allowing me to accompany you on this journey. I will see you next week. Take care. Bye.